Hi, my name is Rachel Lawson. I'm a fifth grade math teacher here in Texas, and I am doing my unit over fractions. I always tell my students, get ready. February is all about fractions. That's where we're at. That's where I started. So typically for my classes, I start right here in my Google Classroom. If you come into our classwork right here, it has a start here. Here's where I represent my expectations and different agreements. I have a communication agreement there as a PDF. My students are very well versed with Google Classroom. I implement this one of the first or second weeks of school. So it's very user friendly to them, and they know my expectations for online work. Here I have my units 11 and 12 overview, and what I plan on accomplishing through these two units. And then I have math manipulatives for them. They use quite frequently, actually. So my intro and introduction is right there at the top of the class pages. My instructional design approach is competency-based education with areas of student-led collaboration and exploration. Every new concept I start is right here with web research. So every new concept, I give them a big idea and I said, okay, I need you to write me 3 to 5 sentences or show me examples of this concept that we're learning. And so, like I said, every new unit starts right here in our Google Classroom. I have been giving them a little bit of direction on their research just because they're in fifth grade and they really struggle sometimes. Actually, at this point in the semester, we're well into our second semester of math here. My students actually are doing a really good job of finding that research on their own. This is more for some of my kids that need a little more help and direction. So that gives them a little bit of the student-led learning. It says, where am I sharing my main course goals and outcomes with my learners? So as I said, right here, I have the overview with their outcomes that we're looking for in the goals, but I always show it right here. We roll LIs and SCs, so learning intentions and success criteria. So for each week, I have the learning intention and success criteria right there for my students to be able to see it. This is something that's also posted in my classroom on a daily basis because this is a blended program. Some students are using some of these resources at home to deepen their understanding and their learning, but they do use this frequently within my classroom on station rotation days as well. This is part of the technology station, is everything in their Google Classroom. So my goals and outcomes are aligned with my 3-column table, along with I do turn in daily lesson or weekly lesson plans to my administrator, and they have basically a 3-column table, but it goes in a little more in the direction that the district wants to see it. But yeah, students do have the opportunity to work with each other, have great conversations, and connect with a unit within Google Classroom and in my physical classroom through small group rotations, station rotations, and students have their interactive notebooks to keep them organized throughout the unit. This is mostly a teacher-led course. I begin each week by giving the students that research question, so that gets them started in the direction. However, I do pick up and take from that point. I give them the guidance in their interactive notebook. And it's really because I have some expectations set forth by my district in the state of Texas that I must accomplish. So I'm still trying to find that balance of student-led versus teacher-led. And I'm still in my rut of teacher-led right now. I'm trying. But I'm trying to let loose those reins, but I'm really struggling for sure. The scope and range of the instructor's role. So I have a combination of all roles. I start as the presenter, and I work through the foundational skills for understanding the concept. Then I step into the coaching role as they begin to work in small groups and independently. And then I'm a mentor. And so I try to show them how to use these concepts in their daily life, where we would use those careers that would lead them to using what we're learning. This is a blended course. So my students have access to the online units right here through their Google Classroom. However, we do cover a lot of this at school. As I said previously, their Google Classroom, this is something that we use on our station rotation days. And I incorporate this within the technology station. It says, how are you introducing the course and yourself? My students are already very familiar with me because they're with me since August. I'm just building on those relationships that I already have because I chose a unit that is in the middle of the year. I maintain my learning community by meeting regularly with my students in small group and individually. We have data folders that we go over. If not weekly, then every other week, I'm meeting with students one-on-one to show them the data of their learning and the growth that they're making regularly. This is majority asynchronous learning style because of the fact that students are in the classroom at a set time with me every single day. However, I do have online assignments that if the students didn't complete them in my classroom, we are one-to-one with iPads. And so they would take these iPads home and complete their classwork that they have here in their Google Classroom. Obviously, too, if students are absent, then they know, jump onto your Google Classroom that evening, see what I missed and what I can cover as well. So the infrastructure system and supports needed and issues that learners that they may face, I address them with small groups so that I can see them. I can work with them in a more one-on-one fashion. I do give regular entrance and exit tickets. I give them an entrance ticket over what we learned the day before. I give them an exit ticket of what did you learn today. I have many ways to gauge my students and the work that they provide to me. I try to support them as needed whenever they have questions. I do check-ins that allow me to modify and intervene as needed. And then as for the systems such as Google Classroom and their platforms online, I've incorporated a lot of that into my learning since day one with my students. They know that if they're not familiar with it, they come to me immediately because I can guide them and help them out. If they can't come to me, they go to a neighbor because if they can't get it, their neighbor probably already has it. We use lots of different platforms like Google Classroom, Pear Deck. That is one that I have been thriving on since COVID-19. That was something that our district implemented, and I am the biggest fan of Pear Deck. I use lots of Google Forms. I do give a lot of YouTube links. And then I like some of the gamifications that we have through Kahoot and Gimkit, quizzes. My kids love that one as well. And so I use those regularly too. So right here, I have my back to the basics. This is how I'm kicking off my fractions units. I have their learning intentions and success criteria. I have the web research with some guidance on that. Then I do have a copy of the Pear Deck. So this is where my students would sign in to get into that Pear Deck. And then here I have it as well as a PDF, just so that they can review it on their own when they need it. So I do Edpuzzles, a whole bunch. These I tell the students, okay, this week we have 3. You complete all 3 of them. I get the average from those 3, and they can even know how to calculate that average on their own. If they need to retake one, they come and say, hey, I didn't do so well on this one. Can you reopen it for me? I let them do that one time, and so that they can definitely get a successful grade out of that. I always put a Fun Day Friday practice on my Google Classroom so that they can get ready for Fun Day Friday, where we do gamification more to reinforce those learning concepts that we learned that week. And then I do give a weekly quiz as well. So that's usually in the form of a Google quizzes, a Google form, just because it's easy to export and import all the grades. Week 2, we're doing adding fractions. So the big deal with 5th grade is you are adding and subtracting fractions with unlike denominators using objects, pictorial models, and properties of operation. And so that is a big thing for my students. They are still grasping a lot of just adding fractions with like denominators. So that's why I started with back to the basics, and then I step in during week 2 with the 5th grade level concept. Here I have their web research with different directions for them to go. The Pear Deck, every week I start off with a Pear Deck. Edpuzzle practices, Fun Day Fridays, and the week 2 quiz. Down here is where I do all my Edpuzzle quizzes. Right here, it tells which week they are, and so my students know how to easily get in and find that information. Within my classroom, I also regularly have stations. So this is a copy of the stations that I did actually last week. And then I have the worksheets that are in class or the independent learning station.